All right, so this is Voki MDM. This is the console that a traditional IT guy would use to manage these devices. So what is the name of your iPad, Jason? Just say Jason's iPad.
This one's Center 6 iPhone.
Okay. So let's see here. So here's Center 6 iPhone 3GS. Right? That's your phone number, right, Adam? So you see in this console, we have all of the data about the particular device. The phone number, the iOS version, the last time it checked in with the system. So it checks in on a regular basis and gives us all this data. We also have all of the device, specific device information. So what model is it exactly? The capacity, the available capacity, what your battery, 35% battery?
It's getting low.
It's getting low. You're going to have to charge. It's only 130, and you're at 35%. The IMEI, also we can tell that you're on AT&T. So there's a lot of device information. So the MDM, I mean, when an enterprise or when somebody gets over 5 devices, then it starts getting hard to manage. Well, how many do I have? What version are they? All that kind of stuff. Just this data right here is very useful so that you can keep track of what's inside of your organization. There's also an inventory of what's on the device. So there's managed apps, and I'll get to that section in a minute, but I can also tell you what apps are on your device. So Amazon, Angry Birds, all Google Voice, I Appreciate, Netflix. So you can see what's already installed on that particular device.
So that was risky.
Huh?
That was risky.
It wasn't like 206 positions. So
Yeah, I know. And then we also see you work at a place that builds mobile apps because you have provisioning profiles too for some of the apps that you're working on, right? So you got a good view into the app. Now, if you go out and in your app list, you'll also see a funky looking app. It's just a random picture of a kid, right? So that is an application that we have set up to auto-install onto your device once you're enrolled. It's really just a web clip. And that pulls up, I don't know if it's working right now, this is just, they built this just this week. But that will pull up a list of applications that you could choose to install onto your device. And those could be third-party apps, or they could be enterprise applications as well. And so you can install them. Yeah, they're showing up. So you see on the far right-hand side, can I show you? So this is that app experience. So the end user gets to pick what managed apps are out there. They just tap on the plus sign, and that will get installed onto their device. Now, these apps, installing them this way turned into a special class of application called a managed application. And one of the reasons to do mobile device management is to add a layer of security around the data and applications on the device. But the challenge is that, in the old days, a company would give you a BlackBerry. That was the company's BlackBerry. And you had no expectation to install whatever you wanted on it, right? Because they provided it for you. It was clear and easy to understand.
Plus you can't phone the BlackBerry.
Plus you can't. I mean, that is the reality. There is nothing fun except for a brick, right? You're playing it with the side wheel. But now, people are buying their own iPhones and their own iPads and saying, I want to use it at work. And since you paid for it, there's an expectation you can install whatever you want on it. But a managed app creates a fence around these applications so that if you disconnect from the enterprise, you remove this MDM profile, those applications get removed as well. Those Wi-Fi settings that get pushed down through the MDM, those get removed as well. So it's creating this boundary around certain elements that the enterprise has control over, but then the user also has control over their device, how they want to do it, whatever they want to do with it as well. So let me jump back to the device list. So Adam, let's see here. Okay, unlock your device. You can see your app list?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's several things that you can do to the device remotely. So I can send a lock command, and there may be some latency because of the sucky network. And it will send and just lock the iPhone. And if it has a passcode on it, it'll require you to enter the passcode in order to unlock it. Did that ever come through?
My connection's kind of slow.
Yeah, I know. Kind of like very weird connection. Okay, let's try Jason right here. Jason's iPad 2. So we'll do a lock. Now the way this works is our system calls to Apple. So it's locked? Okay. Great. So our system calls to Apple through APNS. And then Apple, through APNS, calls the device. And the device calls us and says, hey, I'm here, what's up? Because we can't connect directly to the device has to call to us. And then we send that command. So that's why you'll see a little bit of latency sometimes. Okay, so the other thing is, did you have a passcode on your? You don't? Okay, well, you really don't now because I reset it. And then you can also we can also do a factory reset too. And just completely wipe the device. I won't do that to you. Yeah. So if you lose your device,
now everyone that installs it is like uninstall.
I know, exactly. It's like, get it off my device! Get it off now! Yeah. So there are a lot of really cool things that you can do there. You can also do what's called install a profile. And I'm going to push one down to Jason, and then I'll try one also to Adam as well. And this profile that I installed, we named the BYOD profile. And if we go in here and look at what that does, is it will have certain restrictions about the applications that are running on his device. So these are all of the iOS applications. Native applications on your iOS device, you can't remove, no matter how much you want. An end user can't just, hold the button, hold it until it wiggles, then push the black X. It just doesn't work on those apps. But through a profile, you can remove those. So you can restrict installing apps. You can pull off the camera, like I just did to Adam and to Jason. Their camera's gone. The icon just doesn't show up anymore. YouTube, Siri, iTunes, content of a certain restriction level, Safari, you can remove all of these things. So then the utility of the iPad gets restricted down to whatever you prescribe it to be. All right, did your camera disappear?
Yeah.
Yeah, so your camera's gone.
That's the way I think they said you have to create a passcode within 60 minutes.
Yep, exactly. So I had it. There's another restriction on there, a requirement to have a passcode. And it's not a simple digit one, it's an alphanumeric passcode too. So these are all profile restrictions that you can force onto the device. One other really interesting profile for what we're seeing in these new use cases is the ability to disable the home button. Because the problem when you put an iPad out as a kiosk, everybody that walks by is going to poke that home button and it closes out that app, right? So then instead of having a kiosk, you have an iPad right there, right? That's not the experience that you designed. But now we have a policy that you can push down and that disables the home button, it disables multi-touch, and the notification center. So now that device is really locked down to that single purpose that you want it to be, whether it's a point of sale or a training app or anything along those lines. You can also remove it and then lock it too. So this is how that pharmaceutical company that I told you about is doing this with their doctors. The sales guy will apply this home button policy and then open up, go to meeting or WebEx, whichever one they end up using, and then it's locked. He can't get out of that until they power down the device. So let's push some apps down to you. I'm going to push Kiosk, Active Kiosk down to Jason and to Adam. So these ones are apps that we have signed with our enterprise license. And you'll also notice on the side, there are a couple management flags. The first one is remove the app when the MDM profile is removed. So you don't always want to do that with managed apps, but sometimes you do. And so if they remove the MDM profile, then the app is gone too. And then you can also restrict whether or not that application's data gets backed up.
I was just going to ask, so does this allow you then to push applications that haven't necessarily been approved by Apple if it's an enterprise license?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. So this kiosk app is actually an app we built for Ken's company in the back, Armor Active, and we just signed it with our enterprise license, and now that just gets pushed down. Did you get that notification? Yeah. It just prompts, Moki Networks is pushing this app to your device. Do you want to install or cancel? He just taps install, and it's on his device, and that's done. Now you can do it with apps that are out of the store as well. Like I could push Twitter down to his device, but then it would require an iTunes username and password in order to install it. But to get, when you get employees on an enterprise, or you're using it as a kiosk or some other thing, usually there's a handful of applications that they need, and this is a really quick, easy way to push them down and then push updates too. Because whenever we get a new build of kiosk, we just push it down to the devices again, and they get that notification, install, and now, boom, they have the latest version of the application. And that's what I mean by very proactive pushing of these updated applications.
So if they deleted the software from their review, that kiosk software will go with it?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. And so that's creating that fence around the application and all of that data. Now, it's not a requirement. That's up to you. Like the Twitter application, it doesn't remove with the profile, but the data, they prevent that from backing up. So, it really depends, and you as an administrator or whatever can control that and decide whether or not that's okay. So, do you guys have any questions?
Is there a way to update or push stuff without the user having to put input?
No.
So, for example, kiosks, someone has to go.
Somebody does have to touch that, yeah. Yep, exactly. Now that's the balance. That's the balancing act that Apple has decided to play. They're in the middle, and they've said this is how things will happen. And so, because in their view, it's still your device.
Sure.
It's not the company's. And so they're giving the end user the ability to opt out. And what they're doing, though, is BlackBerry was the stick routine. I'm going to beat you down. You don't have a choice. You're going to use this BlackBerry that's busted and terrible. But in this world, now IT has to say, well, if you want to use your iOS device, you have to have our MDM profile installed. And then they push all of those settings. If you don't want the MDM profile installed, you can't connect to the network. You can't use these applications.